calmed down a little now, but there's been a heavy, heavy rain with lots of lightning. So, like our power's off right now. I'm on the battery. So, if I disappear, something, don't worry. Don't be surprised. Hare Krishna Tukaram Prabhu. Nice to see you. Okay, so
Hare
then
Krishna Bhaktanuppanam.
my pranam Prabhuji. Shall we go ahead and start?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Gora Graganya Ganago Chagaloruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopyata Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Rati Dam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachi Hadile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Goranga Ridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Prana Re Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Parama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Juri Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunataptam Brajabala Bapahimam Vancha Kalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Vaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, good afternoon, dear devotees. I hope everyone is okay. We're here in Jagannath Puri Dham. It's a heavy monsoon rain right now. There's been some lightning. So we're continuing with our discussion about the Antarmukh Sishas and the Madhyamadikari. This is our third session about the Madhyamadikari. And we're focusing on this verse, famous verse from the 11th canto, chapter 2, Ishvare Tadadineshu, Baliseshu Dvisatsucha, Prema Maitri, Kripopeksha, Yakaroti, Samadhyama, describing the nature of a Madhyamadikari, that he he worships the Lord, he gives love to the Lord, he gives friendship to devotees, Baliseshu, persons who are children who are simple, non-envious, he gives mercy to, and Dvisatsu, persons who are envious, he neglects. So I'd like to speak today about some problems. We want to have a Madhyam culture. Srila Prabhupada was clear about that. Thakur Bhaktivinoda is clear about that. If we don't have a Madhyam culture, it really has no meaning. In one place, Srila Prabhupada says that a Madhyamadikari, Bhaktivinoda says, a Madhyamadikari is a pure devotee. What does that mean? It means that they're not taking shelter of karma, gyan, of yoga, or other things. They're pure in that sense. Not that necessarily they have no material desires whatsoever. Uh-oh. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, clear, clear.
Okay. Strange. It shows it dropped or something. Anyway, okay, I'm here. Um, Very strange. So when we speak about this Madhyam culture, there's a problem. And I'm speaking this just as in the same way that people want to give out the vaccination for COVID, even though you may not have COVID, to protect you ahead of time. So, in a similar way, my comments in this class today are for that purpose to protect devotees ahead of time. Once I was flying into Delhi, and some devotees from Gurugram picked us up at the airport. We were supposed to give a class in the temple there. And as the devotee was driving me to the temple, he started speaking about himself. And he said that he'd been a devotee for 6 months or something. And he had a question. His question was, he said, I don't understand. When I first joined, everything was so sweet and everything was so nice. And I was so, but now it's a problem. So what can I do? What do you have a comment about that? And I told him, I said, who have you been speaking to? Because sometimes in the beginning, we think in a sentimental way, we think everybody's a pure devotee. All the devotees in IYF, they're all pure devotees. And there's so much happiness in that. When you think everybody's a pure devotee, it's really good. But then after some time, maybe someone says, that Amritesh Gore, don't, I saw him in the bathroom eating prasadam. Or some big scandal like that. I don't know what it is. He's not a pure devotee, they'll say. And then oh my God. I hope that's the biggest scandal you'll ever have to face in Krishna consciousness. But it happens like that. In the beginning, we're sentimental and we think everyone is so elevated. And there's a happiness in that because we're giving respect to everyone. But then after some time, we become more sophisticated, more high tech. I'm not going to just give respect to anybody. I have to make sure that they're an advanced devotee. And some devotees, they go further down this road even, and they join a club. It's the Amar Guru Jagat Guru Club. That my Guru Dev is great, and only he is great, and nobody else. Why is your guru great? Oh, because he's my guru. Because he gave me initiation. That's why. So, Atmavan Manyate Jagat. One of the symptoms of a conditioned soul is that they see everybody else in the same way they see themselves. So, we should be very careful about this. One of the important qualities of a Madhyam Vaishnav is that he practices dvisatsu or practices upeksha for those persons who are dvisatsu, who are envious. He practices neglect of them. So I'd like to focus a little bit today on some of that. It's a very, very important subject. Please listen carefully. In Sajjana Toshini magazine, Thakur Bhaktivinoda has commented, I'm just reading a translation, he says, there is no worse association in the whole world than that of a Dharmadvaji. So Dharmadvaji means somebody who's acting like they're very devotional, but they're not. The Dharmadvaji, literally, the Vaja, of course, means a flag, and they're waving the flag of Dharma. They're advertising themselves as a great devotee. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it's better to associate with sense enjoyers. Being deceitful, the Dharmadvajis take on the appearance of devotees with a desire to cheat everyone and to fulfill their crooked desires. They cheat the foolish by helping them in their rascaldom. In other words, the Dharmadvaji wants to cheat everybody, and he sees some rascal persons, some foolish persons who want to enjoy sense gratification in the name of Krishna consciousness. And so they help them in that way. And they're complete nonsense. And he says some of the Dharmadvajis become gurus, others become disciples, and by trickery, they accumulate wealth, women, false prestige, and material assets. If one gives up the association of crooked hypocrites, one can honestly engage in devotional service. So, this is a really important topic to understand something about. The Dharmadvaji is someone, his basic definition given by Vrindavan Das Thakur is that he doesn't give respect to everyone. Vrindavan Das Thakur sings, Aise Vaishnava Dharma Sabare Pranati Sehi Dharmadvaji Ja Ite Nahi Rati Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. He says that the very basic nature of a Vaishnav, the Dharma of a Vaishnav is Sabare Pranati, that he gives respect, he offers pranams to everyone. But say Dharmadvaji, someone who's a Dharmadvaji, Jara ite nahirati, he doesn't have any attachment for that because he's an envious person. So Srila Prabhupada spoke about this in his purport to Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 218, in his purport there. I'm trying to see, I somehow in Zoom, something happened in my Zoom and my screen disappeared, but I can still see everybody. But
We can hear you, Prabhu. We can hear you.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to share.
I'll share that. I'll share that. Yeah. Okay.
That's okay. But I got it. Came back now.
Okay.
So let's read Srila Prabhupada's words. Prabhupada says, when a Vaishnav sees that another Vaishnav is a recipient or has gotten the Lord's mercy, he becomes very happy. Vaishnavas are not envious. If a Vaishnav, by the mercy of the Lord, is empowered by him to distribute the Lord's holy name all over the world, other Vaishnavas become very joyful. That is, if they are truly Vaishnavas. One who is envious of the success of a Vaishnav is certainly not a Vaishnav himself, but is an ordinary mundane man. Envy and jealousy are manifested by mundane people, not by Vaishnavas. Why should a Vaishnav be envious of another Vaishnav who is successful in spreading the holy name of the Lord? An actual Vaishnav is very pleased to accept another Vaishnav who is bestowing the Lord's mercy. A mundane person in the dress of a Vaishnav should not be respected but rejected. Very strong statement. Srila Prabhupada says, a mundane person in the dress of a Vaishnav should not be respected but rejected. And how? He goes on, this is enjoined in the Shastra, upeksha. The word upeksha means neglect. One should neglect an envious person. A preacher's duty is to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, make friendships with Vaishnavas, show mercy to the innocent, and reject or neglect those who are envious or jealous. There are, he says, there are many jealous people in the dress of Vaishnavas in this Krishna consciousness movement, and they should be completely neglected. There is no need to serve a jealous person who's in the dress of a Vaishnav. So, very strong statement. We should understand, don't be sentimental. Don't be surprised if we meet some people, even in the Krishna consciousness movement, who are not perfect. In another letter, Srila Prabhupada, he, I don't know, maybe I can try to find that. Let me see here. He spoke about how we should give respect to everyone. And he said that, I found it. Let me share the screen again. This is a really very important statement from Srila Prabhupada. You can make a tattoo of this and put it on your chest. Prabhupada said, I have noted your several complaints against the devotees, but it would be better to set the example rather than to criticize the defects of the devotees. We should always remember that we recruit members from people in general. It's not expected that every one of our members should be immediately to the standard qualification. The best thing for you is to set the example by your personal behavior and try to reform the others, not by criticizing, but by friendly behavior. If sometimes there are any disagreements, we should try to forget such incidences and always be in friendship with each other. So this is a Madhyam culture. This is Srila Prabhupada's desire. There will be problems. It's not that there might be, there will be problems. And whether they're true or not, we'll sometimes see some mistake in a devotee. And when we see that mistake, that fault, the best thing to do is to go to that person privately and speak to them. Guru Maharaj, he said that you have no right to chastise or correct anyone because you're not guru.
Hare Krishna. I think due to the rain, the network is very slow. That's why Prabhuji could not remain online. Okay, let's wait for some time. If he comes back, streaming, he told. I think we can read that purport which Prabhuji was sharing that time. Till the time he comes back, we can read it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay, let's try again here. Can you enable me to share my screen, please?
Yes, Prabhu. You can share now. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So, wonderful statement from our Guru Maharaj I want to share with you. Please meditate on this. It's such a very, very deep principle. And I can tell you frankly that how well you follow this, this instruction, these series of instructions he gives in this little quote in front of me, will differentiate between the persons who are serious and not serious in Krishna consciousness. If you're really serious and you want to make advancement, then you'll follow these instructions. And if you're not, you won't, and you'll have a lot of trouble. So Guru Maharaj speaks about who has the right to chastise. When we see a problem in our Krishna conscious society, it's disturbing, and especially if we see some hypocrisy or some wrongdoing going on with the leader. It may be genuine, it may not be genuine. You may see Amritesh Gaur Prabhu coming out of a liquor store with a big bag in his arms, and oh my God! And then you go tell all the other YYF devotees, Prabhu, Amritesh Gaur, he came out of a. But you should go and talk with him. Maybe he has a bag full of books, and he went into that liquor store because someone asked him to come and bring them a book. Lord Nityananda Prabhu was sometimes preaching like that, and Amritesh Gaur Prabhu certainly might do like that also. So we should be very careful to try to criticize a devotee. And moreover, as Guru Maharaj says here, to correct and criticize someone is a business only of such a person who's acting as guru. When we find some problem, when we see some envy in the society, we have several options. But what we should follow, we should practice upeksha, or neglect. And neglect means neglect. It means that we just stay away from that person. Guru Maharaj says that person who's acting as guru, he has a right to inflict punishment on you, to catch hold of your ear and slap you, Guru Karnadhara. He'll correct and criticize you, rascal. Why are you doing this and that? You have no right to chastise, no right to correct anyone. You're not guru. Guru has that right. If you see someone and you have a good heart, oh, he's doing something wrong that is detrimental to his bhakti, then go to him, pay obeisances, and tell him confidentially, not in front of others, oh, my brother, I see this thing and it pains me very much that you're doing this and this. This is a great impediment on the path of devotion. I fear you won't be able to make any advancement. Therefore, I'm coming to you and telling you, oh, my friend, please don't do it. Be serious about your bhajan. Tell him in such a humble way. Speak to him confidentially, not in the presence of others. If he's serious, he'll admit, you are my great friend. I'm blind to my own faults. You pointed them out, so I'll be careful. He'll accept it. But if you speak in the presence of others, a reverse effect will be there. And the devotee commented, but sometimes I may want to correct someone, but I can see, actually this is myself speaking, as I recall, but I can see that the person won't accept what I have to say. And Guru Maharaj said, so why will you tell him? You should think he won't accept it, so why shall I tell him? Let him go. As you sow, so shall you reap. What can I say to such a person? So this is our principle. Our principle is to practice upeksha, or neglect. Our principle is not to appoint ourselves as a reformer of everyone else. Our principle is not to go online on Facebook or wherever and try to criticize, I saw this devotee coming out of a liquor store, he's so bad, he's this and that. That's not our business. That's the business of guru. We should be very, very careful. In this regard, there's a nice story. Again, in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, there was one devotee whose name was Dhanardas. And he actually wasn't a devotee, he was a wrestler. And he was very, very attached to the young, beautiful girlfriend that he had. And once there was a procession of the deity, and the deity's coming down the road, and everyone's come outside to see the deity on the palanquin. And this Dhanardas is walking down the road, and he's holding an umbrella over the head of his girlfriend, and he's fanning her with the other hand, right in front of the deity. Shameless person. And all the people were seeing that, and they were laughing. And Ramanuja saw that, but he didn't laugh. He didn't criticize, rather, his heart melted. And he told one of his disciples, "You please bring that man over." And he called for that man. He said, "What is your name?" He said, "My name is Dhanardas." And he said, I'm a wrestler. And Ramanuja said, everyone's laughing at you because you're holding this umbrella over the head of this girl and fanning her. And Dhanardas, to his good credit, was a simple person. He said, well, what can I do? I've never seen anyone more beautiful than this girl. And then Ramanuja said, well, if I could show you someone more beautiful, would you agree to serve this other person? Yes, definitely. So this was happening in Sri Rangam. And Lord Ramanujacharya took him to see the deity of Sri Ranganath. And when Dhanardas saw the beauty of Lord Ranganath, he said, oh my God, this is such a beautiful personality. And so he became a disciple of Ramanuja. And Ramanuja became very attached to him. Although he was a Sudra by birth, when he would take baths in the Kaveri River, he would put his arm on his hand on the arm of Dhanardas. And some of Ramanuja's young brahmachari disciples became envious about that. How is it Guru Maharaj is giving respect to this person? He's born in a low-class family. This is very, very bad. So Ramanuja understood their mentality. So he decided to teach them a lesson, to help them understand the proper behavior of a Vaishnav. So one night, while everyone was taking rest, Ramanuja got up and they all had their dhotis hanging to dry. And he tore a strip of cloth off each one of the dhotis, maybe about as big as a kopin. Uh-huh. And the next morning, when those brahmacharis got up in the morning, they discovered what happened. And they started quarreling amongst themselves. You did this. No, you did this. You should have been watching somebody who did this. This is very, very bad. And finally, Ramanuja himself had to come and calm them down. Hey, stop arguing. It's okay. And so then that evening, Ramanuja, he called for his disciples and he said, I think probably you've all noticed how my disciple Dhanardas is actually a very attached grihastha. He's very attached to his wife, and he's just posing as a great devotee. So this evening, every evening he comes to talk with me. Tonight when he comes, I'll keep him here and discuss the Shastra with him or something. While I'm doing that, I want you to go there and steal the ornaments that he's fond of offering to his wife. And then we'll see what kind of devotee he really is. And all the brahmacharis said, yes, Guru Maharaj, we've been waiting. We knew this fellow, he's a bogus fellow. Yes, you go tonight. And so that night they came to the ashram and they saw Dhanardas's wife, Hemamba. She was asleep and the door wasn't locked. The brahmacharis, acting like chores, came in very quietly. And then they started removing the golden ornaments from Dhanardas's wife. Now, actually, Himamba, that Mataji, was not sleeping. And she was aware of everything that was going on, but she pretended she was deep asleep because she didn't want to disturb the brahmacharis. And so they took off her earring, they took off her kankana, her bracelet, and her nupura on one side. And so then she pretended that she's deep asleep and she's rolling over so those brahmacharis could take the ornaments from the other side as well. But when she rolled over, they became frightened and thought she was going to wake up. And so they ran away. And they came back to the ashram, and they told everything to Ramanuja. And then Ramanuja, who was there with Dhanardas, he told Dhanardas, you go back now to your wife. And they didn't speak this thing in front of Dhanardas, but so then Dhanardas went back to his house, and Dhanardas didn't know what had been going on. And he came in the house and he saw, my dear wife, why are you wearing ornaments on one side of your body and not on the other? What's going on? And then his wife said, oh, my dear husband, these brahmachari Brahmins, they came here while you were gone. And no doubt that they have no money or anything, so they had to become thieves. And that time I was awake, I was chanting the names of the Lord in my mind. But they must have thought that I was sleeping, so they entered the room and they took all my ornaments from one side. And when they did that, then I rolled over so they could take the rest of the jewelry. But then they got frightened and they ran away. And Dhanardas, when he heard this, he became very angry. And he started yelling at his wife. The nonsense, stupid woman. He said, this is your mistake. You're in Maya. You're thinking these are my ornaments, and so I can give them away. If you had just remained still, then you would have been able to give everything to those brahmacharis. It would have been very good for us. You're nonsense. You're just an illusion. You think they belong to me. And his wife said, oh, I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. Please bless me that I can become free from this illusion. And those brahmacharis who've been sent by Ramanuja to watch what was going on when Dhanardas went back, they went back to the ashram and they told Ramanuja about the behavior of that couple. And the next morning, then Ramanuja called for all of them to come together. And he said, all of you, you're learned Brahmins, you're brahmacharis. He said, you're very proud of your position as Brahmins. So I want you to know whose behavior, I want you to tell me whose behavior was more appropriate as a Vaishnav. Your behavior yesterday morning when you found your cloth was a little bit shorter, or the behavior of Dhanardas and his wife when the jewels were stolen, when the jewelry was taken away. And those disciples, they couldn't say anything. They just hung their heads in shame and they said, Guru Maharaj, it was Dhanardas. Dhanardas, he was behaving properly. Our behavior was very, very bad. So we should understand, we should be very careful to not criticize others, to not try to judge them. So they were thinking that Dhanardas was just an ordinary mundane person, but they couldn't see. But Ramanuja, he could understand. We should be on our behavior. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a beautiful description of the qualities of Krishna. And one of the descriptions, one of the qualities that Krishna has is Priyamvada. Priyamvada means that he speaks in a pleasing way. And Rupa Goswami defines this. He says, Jani Krita Paradhepi Santvavadi Priyamvada. That someone who speaks in a pleasing manner, even to someone who's offended them. That's not such an easy thing. If we want to make advancement, we should understand like that. And Rupa Goswami, then he gives an example. He gives a verse. Krita velika pina kundalindra tvaya videya mohidosha drishti pravashyamano surachitanam padam hitayadya gavam kulasya. This is Krishna's words to Kaliya. Now Kaliya was such a demon. He killed all the cowherd boys and all the cows, and Krishna brought them back to life. He was such an aparadi. And Krishna had told him, you have to go, you have to leave. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives one comment, interesting comment about Kaliya. He says that Kaliya had gotten so much mercy from Krishna. Krishna put his feet on Kaliya's head. So then why did he drive him out of Braj? And Bhaktivinoda explains, he says, because Kaliya, although he had the good fortune of getting Krishna's mercy, Kaliya didn't take shelter of any of the Brijbasis. He'd not taken shelter of any of the Vaishnavas. And because of that, he couldn't stay in Braj. So Kaliya was such an envious person. But Krishna addressed him in a very, very respectful way. He addressed him as Kundalindra, the king of snakes. He says, I've caused you so many problems. He says, but Mai dosha drishti, please don't see any fault in me. I did this to protect the cows. But for the good of the cows, you're going to have to go somewhere else. Krishna apologized to him. He didn't have to apologize to him. Kaliya was such a rascal, but Krishna showed us how to behave properly. So when we practice upekshit, means we neglect seeing the envious quality in some other person. It means that we don't consider ourselves to be the judge, because Gurudev is the judge. It means that we don't consider ourselves to be the person who can chastise or correct that other person. That's the business of Gurudev. It's not my business. But if we try to insist that, oh, I'm going to chastise everybody, it means we're showing by example something which is very unfortunate. Uh-huh. You may say that the holy name is the topmost of everything, but instead, if you open a website or you start a Facebook account and you start criticizing all the senior devotees or other devotees that may be senior or not senior, but you're criticizing all of them, you're giving a message. You may not be saying it with your mouth or directly, but indirectly you're giving a message. And what is that message that you're giving? The message is that chanting Hare Krishna is okay, but it's not going to solve all the problems. And if you want to be a really high class devotee like me, then you should learn to criticize others and find fault with others. But if we behave like that, we'll never be able to make advancement. We have to learn to be tolerant. In the first canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a beautiful verse where Shukadeva Goswami describes the tolerance of Parikshit Maharaj. Tiraskritya vipralabdaha saptak shipta hatapi nashyata pratikurvanti tad bhakta prabhavopihi. That the devotees are so tolerant that even though someone criticizes them, on Facebook, they say some terrible thing about you. That, oh, I saw him talking to this girl. He's like this and this. Can you tolerate that? Vipralabdaha, even though you've been cheated, someone's taken money from you, they charged you too much money, and it was a devotee who did that. Or shipta. Shipta means that they're neglecting you. They don't pay any attention to you. There's a program, and you go there, and you're a senior person. You're one of the most senior IYF devotees. You join 2 months before everybody else, and they don't give any respect to you. That's very, very bad. Or hata, even maybe they try to kill you. But the nature of a devotee, tadbhakta prabhava, the prabhava, or the power of a devotee is that they don't argue back. They just tolerate that. So this is a deep principle in the behavior of a Madhyam disciple. The Madhyam disciple doesn't try to take the position of guru. It's Gurudev's right to chastise others. It's Gurudev's right to find fault with others. As Srila Prabhupada said in that letter, better than finding fault with the others, you should set an example by yourself. That's very powerful. Our Guru Maharaj saw so many problems in ISKCON, but he just stayed in Bhubaneswar. He stayed in ISKCON, and he kept doing his service, and he showed by example. He didn't go around speaking bad things about people or anything. He showed by his example. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the first Vilas of the Hari Bhakti Vilas speaks about what is a proper disciple. And one of the verses there says, Advaitam cha parityaget. This is one of the important principles of a disciple, that he should give up the mentality that they're non-different from Gurudev. Parityaget, you give up Advaitam. Don't think that you're non-different from your guru. Just because I've been initiated by Gurudev, who am I and who is Gurudev? So we should correct ourselves and not others, as Srila Prabhupada said. There's a beautiful letter that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wrote. I'd like to share with you. Let's see here if I can bring this up. He said, I received your card dated November 26 and another letter following that. Srimad Bhagavatam has instructed us not to praise or criticize others' nature or activities. It is also said in Chaitanya Bhagavat that one goes to hell by criticizing others. My instruction to you is not to criticize others, but to correct and purify yourself. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says a very powerful thing. I'm forced to criticize my own disciples and those who have come to me for instruction. I don't understand why you would go out of your way to try to perform such a difficult task. That's my business, he said. That's the business of Guru. This is our Guru Maharaj's comment. It's not your business. Don't artificially try to do that. Huh? We should be very, very careful. It's a business of Guru. And if we decide that, oh, but somebody has to do it, then it means that you don't see the hand of Gurudev. You don't really believe that Gurudev is present. Huh? That chastisement is a business of Guru. It's not our business. There's one story of one lady Vaishnavi. Her name was Sri Soba. And Soba, she was very, very saintly devotee, and she liked very much to render service to saintly persons, to sadhus. But at the same time, her in-laws were very envious of her. And especially the wife of her husband's brother she really didn't like her at all. But her husband's brother was favorable to her. So one time she was given a pair of expensive bangles for safekeeping. But the wife of her husband's brother, who was very envious of her, stole them and buried them in the ground. And then when her husband returned home, she complained that Soba had sold the bangles and used the money to serve the devotees. And she's some crazy Hare Krishna. The envious lady said she's going and serving these Hare Krishna people, and she sold those bangles. So when Soba heard that, she paid for those stolen bangles. And then later on, by her husband's mercy, she found a pair of divine bangles in her house. And then she gave those bangles to her husband's brother. And so the wife of her husband's brother, was confused. And she dug up the earth and she found the original bangles still there. And then they realized, oh, she's a very, very special person. It reminds me of another story. I won't say names, but there was one Odia brahmachari in the Bhubaneswar temple. And one day, one of the Bideshi devotees, one of the Western devotees, like myself, it wasn't me, went to Guru Maharaj and complained about this Odia brahmachari and said, Guru Maharaj, he stole my tape recorder, my tape player machine. He stole it, this such and such person. And so then Guru Maharaj called for that devotee and said, did you steal this? And the devotee was alone with Guru Maharaj. And the devotee said, no, Guru Maharaj, I didn't do that. I didn't. And Guru Maharaj said, anyway, you should go and you apologize to him. And you accept his chastisement. That's the nature of a Vaishnava. And we see this in the nature of Soba. Prabhupada said in one letter to Babru Prabhu, my good friend, who's now Ashram Maharaj, he said that now we have, by Krishna's grace, built up something significant in the shape of this ISKCON, and we're all one family. Sometimes there may be some disagreement and quarrel, but we should not go away. These problems can be adjusted, and Prabhupada says in 3 ways the problems can be adjusted. It's a very beautiful statement. Huh? Maybe we'll put this on the screen also. A very nice thing to meditate on. Prabhupada said, these problems, these inebrities, inebrity means a problem or fault, these faults can be adjusted by 3 things: cooperative spirit, tolerance, and maturity. These are 3 secrets that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And these secrets are given us to help our society and also to help us as individual devotees. We have to show some cooperative spirit. We have to show some tolerance. We have to show some maturity. Sometimes devotees, they have a hard time understanding how it is that Srila Prabhupada gave sannyas or big positions to so many devotees, some of whom fell down, some of whom had problems. There's a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and one sannyasi. Actually, that sannyasi later left sannyas. It was during the Rath Yatra time in New York, I think in 1974. And one big sannyasi had just fallen down. And this devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how do we understand this big devotee fell down? And Prabhupada told him, he said, actually, and I want to comment on this further. He said, actually, I've not really given any of you sannyas. He said, it's just like during a time of war, you make everybody stand in a line because there's no proper person to lead. So you make everybody stand in a line, and you count to 5, and every 5th person, they become a lieutenant. And he said, in a similar way, I gave you some opportunity. Now, that doesn't mean that so many wonderful devotees like Radha Govinda Maharaj or Bhakti Charu Maharaj or Guru Maharaj and others were not qualified as sannyasis. Certainly they were by their behavior. We can see that. And so many others too, so many other Western disciples. Jayapataka Maharaj has been a sannyasi for over 50 years, I think now. So many devotees are qualified. But Prabhupada was doing that to encourage them. And sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes a spiritual master will encourage people to come and do something. An example is given by Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary in the Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, where he speaks about Putana. And Kamsa sent Putana to Braj to kill all the babies. And Jiva Goswami comments, how do we understand that Putana was killing the babies of the sons and daughters of the Brij Basis? And Jiva Goswami explains, he said, no, actually she wasn't. She was only killing the sons and daughters of the followers of Kamsa. Krishna tricked her and used her in his service. Krishna used Putana in his service. Srila Prabhupada used many Putanas in his service. Once some devotees came to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and they said, Maharaj, we know you're a wonderful sadhu, but there's many nonsense people in your society. And you should chastise them. You should drive them out. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he's a Singha guru. He's a lion-like guru. He told them, he said, I know they're here. He said, but if I drive them out, what hope will there be for them? At least here there's some hope. So how do we deal with such persons? We can't tolerate. I know, I have a friend in Israel, and she can't tolerate when she sees any kind of injustice like that. She can't tolerate whatsoever. Very, very angry person. But we have to practice upeksha. If we don't learn to practice neglect, then we'll go mad because we'll see so many problems in this society, and we're going to try to correct all the problems and chastise all the people. It's not our business to chastise them. It's the business of Guru. And until we come to understand it's not my business, I'm not going to make very much advancement. So Srila Prabhupada gave these 3 principles. He says these inebrities, these problems, these faults can be adjusted by these 3 things: cooperative spirit, tolerance, and maturity. We cooperate together as long as I see devotees pushing the holy name, devotees pushing Srimad Bhagavatam. I want to cooperate with them. Even they may be somewhat demoniac. They may be very controlling and may have bad qualities and things, but still I'm going to cooperate with the mission of Srila Prabhupada when I see that. And I'm going to tolerate those things. I'm going to have the maturity to see what's necessary, because if I can't tolerate anything, then how will Srila Prabhupada's mission go on? So Prabhupada said, so I request you to kindly remain in the association of our devotees and work together. It's very easy to leave. I've seen so many devotees leave. But Prabhupada says the test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate. I remember hearing from Srila Bhakti Charu Maharaj how it was in the early days for him. He said it was very, very difficult. He said there was a number of Western sannyasis and persons, and they were making it very, very difficult for the Indian sannyasis. But he tolerated that. Some people they couldn't tolerate and they went away. But if you go away, then you can't serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. You may become discouraged if you see some wrong thing going on in the IYF. And you will see something going on wrong sooner or later. It's almost a guarantee. But if you become discouraged and go away, it's not going to help anything. Rather, we should show by our own example how to behave. What is proper behavior? I'd like to tell you another story in this regard. Very interesting story about Jayadev Goswami, the author of Gita Govinda. One day, one wealthy Vaishnav invited Jayadev to his home, and he wanted to give him some money as dakshina. But Jayadev refused. No, I'm not going to accept that. Sometimes sadhus, they don't want to accept money because money causes all kinds of problems, all kinds of quarrels with people. But that wealthy man, he really wanted to give something to Jayadev. So he took some of those coins and he tied them in a corner of Jayadev's chadar, which was sitting on a chair in the room. And then when Jayadev he'd left, he was going to his ashram, he put that chadar on. He didn't notice that it was a little heavier today. And so he was moving, and as he was going, he came across a group of thieves. And Jayadev asked, "Where are you going?" And they said, "Oh, we're going the same place you're going." And so Jayadev could understand these guys, these are thieves. So Jayadev untied the cloth, and he said that you should take these coins. You can take as many as you want, and if you want to give any to me, you can. And so then those thieves, they were thinking to themselves, they were very envious. This person's very clever. He's afraid of us. And so now he's giving everything without our asking. But later on, when we arrive in a town, he's going to have us arrested. So thinking like this, the thieves, they took that money, but they kept some distance away from Jayadev while they were all walking. And they started whispering among themselves. And one of them said, "I think the best thing is we should kill him." Another one said, "Hey, we've gotten all the money from him. There's no use killing him." Another one said, "No, but later on, if he recognizes us and tells the king to punish us, what will we do?" And then finally someone else said, "Let's not kill him, but let's break his arms and legs and throw him into a ditch. And then he'll die after some time. And so we won't get the sin of killing him." This thief didn't know very much about Shastra. So they're thinking like that. And so they broke Jayadev Goswami's arms and legs, and they threw him into a ditch, and he returned home. After some time, the king, Lakshman Singh, passed by on that road, and he heard some sound coming from a hole in the ditch. It's coming from the ditch. Someone was chanting Hare Krishna in a very blissful voice. And he went there and he saw there's some effulgence coming from there. And he found Jayadev Goswami doing kirtan there in the ditch with broken arms and legs. And that king pulled him out of the ditch and saw that he was so effulgent. And he said, "My dear sadhu, what happened to you?" And Jayadev said, "Oh, it's my karma. By destiny, something happened to me." He didn't even say who did it. Could we tolerate like that? He wouldn't say who did it. And the king, hearing Jayadev's words and seeing him, understood this person is a great sadhu. And so he arranged for a palanquin. He put Jayadev on that and he brought him to his palace. And then he gave some medical treatment and he cured Jayadev's hands and arms and legs. And then the king told him, he said, I want to do some service for you. What can I do? And Jayadev told him, you should, I'm not really a sadhu, he said, in his humility. He said, you should arrange for all kinds of sweets and other things and offer them to the Lord and then distribute that prasadam to his devotees. You should always be prepared to serve the Lord's devotees. Yes. So that king, he took that order of Jayadev Goswami on his head and he started serving all the Vaishnavas. So one day those thieves, they heard about this king who was serving the Vaishnavas so nicely. So they decided, we're going to play a trick. And so they put on Kuntimala and tilak, and they came to see the king. And when they arrived there, they saw Jayadev Goswami, and they got very, very nervous. But when Jayadev saw them, he turned to the king and he said, Maharaj, today is a very good day. My senior godbrothers came here. And then Jayadev went and gave them such a respectful greeting. He treated those thieves like they're great devotees. And he told the king, these are great sadhus, great Vaishnavas. They have love of God. You're very fortunate that they've arrived at your house today. You should serve them with faith and devotion, be blessed. And so the king, he took those thieves in his palace and he told his servants, you take care of them. They made really nice foodstuffs for them. They gave them nice gifts and things. But the minds of those thieves were very disturbed. They were in great anxiety because they thought Jayadev's going to tell on us anytime and the king's going to kill us. So they were very nervous. So finally they said, Maharaj, thank you very much. It's been really nice, but really we have to go. We never stay very long in the place of the king. We're renounced sadhus. The king was very impressed. Oh, you're such renounced sadhus. Yes, yes. We need to go right away. So the king said, okay, you can go, but Jayadev then said, Maharaj, before they go, you should give them some nice gifts. So the king gave them all kinds of opulent clothes and jewelry and ornaments and so many things. And then he sent a few servants with them to be guards so they could carry their bags and things. So the king's guards were carrying the bags of those thieves and walking behind them. And after some time, they sat down to rest. And the guards, they asked those thieves who looked like devotees, my dear sadhus, we've never seen any Vaishnavas like you. Many sadhus have visited our king, but we've never seen anyone treated the way our king has served you and the way that Jayadev's respected you. So please tell us about your relationship with Jayadev. All right, so now it's getting a little dangerous. And one of those false devotees, they replied, they said, this is very confidential, but we'll reveal it to you, but don't tell others. Previously, this so-called Swami, this Jayadev, he was working for us, along with us, for another king. And once he committed a big offense. And so the king told us that we should kill him. But we wanted to give mercy to him. And so we didn't kill him. We just broke his hands and legs. And we showed mercy to him, even though the king told us to kill him. And that's why this Jayadev gives us so much respect. Such rascals, such demoniac persons. So after these ungrateful so-called Vaishnavas told like this, suddenly the earth started shaking and the earth split open and a big crack, and all of those rascals, they fell down in that crack and they disappeared. And when the guards saw that, they were very astonished. And so then they ran back to tell Jayadev what had happened. When Jayadev heard that, he started shaking and he was crying, being very unhappy, hearing about what happened to the thieves. And then the king, when he heard the story, he went to Jayadev also. And he said, Maharaj, speaking to Jayadev, why did the earth crack open? Why did these sadhus fall inside of there? Please tell me, what's the actual fact? And Jayadev, when the king was asking, please tell me the actual fact, Jayadev just said, my dear king, that no matter how people misbehave with saintly persons, those saintly persons never retaliate. They never fight back. On the contrary, they always try to do good, even to their enemies. He said the devotees are always engaged in working for the welfare, the benefit of all living entities. Their hearts are full of compassion, they're sober, they're kind, they're filled with all kinds of devotional sentiments. So, just as sinful people don't give up their sinful nature, similarly, devotees never give up their honesty and kindness. And someone who understands this important fact, they get the mercy of the sadhus and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a very, very important principle we should understand. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta writes in a beautiful purport in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. I'll go ahead and bring this up on our screen also. And we'll finish with this. This is in our BBT purport. This is Bhagavatam 11:23-5. Kena chit bhikshana gitam paribhutena durjanai smarata ditiyuktena vipakam nirja nija karmanam. That once one bhikshana, one sannyasi, he was insulted in so many different ways by durjanas, impious people. But smarata ditiyuktena, he remembered, he just focused at vipakam nija karmanam, that these suffering that I'm going through is because of my karma. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta comments on this. He says, often those who give up the materialistic path and devote themselves to renunciation are attacked by impious persons. It happens. When you give up the materialistic path, you want to join IYF, you want to join ISKCON, you want to be renounced in the material world, but you're attacked by impious persons. He says, however, this analysis is superficial, it's just external, because the punishment we should see is actually the result of our own past karma. Some renunciates show a lack of tolerance when presented with the remnants of their previous sins, and thus are forced to enter again onto the path of impious life. So if we can't tolerate when these bad things happen to us, when some devotee in the ashram does something which is not right, if we can't tolerate that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, we'll be forced to again become a materialistic person. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore instructs that one should become as tolerant as a tree. If a neophyte on the path of devotional service of the Lord's pure devotees is attacked by envious persons, he must accept it as a consequence of his previous fruitive activities. One should be intelligent and avoid future unhappiness by rejecting the ethic of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If one refuses to enter into enmity with envious men, they will automatically leave him alone. This is a secret. Guru Maharaj once told me in your bhajan, if you give respect to everyone, then these materialistic people, they'll leave you alone. But if we don't learn that, if we're so proud, we're so angry, if we want to take the position of guru for ourselves, then we'll be forced to again enter the path of materialistic life. And we won't be successful in our own personal bhajan, and it won't help the Sangha of devotees. It won't help Srila Prabhupada's society. It's very, very important that we come to the platform of behaving like a Madhyam Adhikari. And a Madhyam Adhikari practices upeksha. What does upeksha mean? Does upeksha mean that if you see some devotee doing some bad thing to a woman, that you just say, okay, I'm not going to say anything? No, that's not upeksha. In fact, if you don't say anything, you're getting a great fault. You're a great sinner. And the Mahabharata says you'll take some sinful reaction for that. You should say something about it, but in an appropriate way. Maybe you might go to that devotee first, if you're not 100% sure, and say, why were you doing like this? And he may say, oh, I had this reason, and maybe he had a good reason. If he doesn't have a good reason, then maybe you go to your authority. And if your authority won't listen, maybe you go to his authority. Maybe you go to the police. You say something. We have an obligation to do that, to protect devotees, to protect women and things in our society. But we don't have the right to self-appoint ourselves as a reformer of others. If we see some envy, and there's a difference between envy and some violent activity. Envy is a subtly violent activity. But if we see someone doing something very, very violent to other persons, we have to say something about it. But it doesn't mean that we have to appoint ourselves as the judge and policeman to chastise and correct that person. That's the business of guru. We should understand that. And if we take that on ourselves, we'll destroy the whole society. And I can tell you there are so many devotees today who are self-appointed reformers. They're self-appointed because they weren't given that role by their guru. And indirectly, they're thinking that Gurudev's not present, that there's no one who's going to chastise him, so I have to do it myself. And let me share with you another very powerful statement from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. If I can find this here, let's see. Yes, here it is. Just give me a minute. This is from the Harmonist magazine in May of 1932. It's an article that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote, which we printed in our Bindu magazine in issue 177. And this is such a powerful statement from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. I'd like to close with this and contemplate on this a little bit. He says, the world stands in no need of any reformer. The world doesn't need a reformer. The world has a very competent person for guiding its minutest happenings. There's already someone there to guide every small thing in this world. A person who determines, a person who thinks that there's scope or need for reform of the world himself stands in need of reform. If you think that, oh, I have to go and reform the IYF, I have to go reform ISKCON Bhubaneswar, I have to reform this and that, it means you need to be reformed. You need to be changed. He says the world goes on in its own perfect way. No person can deflect it, even the breadth of a hair, from the course chalked out for it by providence. When we perceive any change being actually affected in the course of events in this world by the agency of any particular individual, right? So sometimes if we see some change going on in this world by some person, we should know very well that the agent possesses no real power at any stage. The person who seems to be making the change, it's not actually him. The agent finds himself driven forward by a force belonging to a different category from himself. The agent is not the doer. The course of the world does not require to be changed by the agency of any person. What is necessary is to change our outlook on this world. This was done by the contemporary generation, for the contemporary generation, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya. It can only be known to recipients, people getting it, of his mercy. The scriptures declare, this is a very beautiful sentence, the scriptures declare that it's only necessary to listen with an open mind to the name of Krishna from the lips of a bona fide devotee. That's all that's necessary. And then what is the symptom that we've heard that name? In the next sentence, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, as soon as Krishna enters the listening ear, he clears up the vision of the listener so that the listener no longer has any ambition of ever acting the part of a reformer of any other person, because he finds that nobody's left without the very highest guidance. That's the symptom that we're properly hearing the holy name. It is therefore his own reform that he is increasingly able to realize by the eternally continuing mercy of the Supreme Lord. This is a behavior of a Madhyam. The Madhyam doesn't imitate Guru. Advaitam cha parityagyat. It says in Hari Bhakti Vilas, don't imitate Guru. It's Guru's business to chastise and correct. It's our business to do Nam Bhajan. And as Srila Prabhupada said, it's our business. We should do these three things. We should tolerate together. We should cooperate. And we should show some maturity. Have a cooperative spirit show tolerance, and show maturity. If we don't do that, we can't serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. We'll become useless. There's always going to be so many problems. My grandma saw so many problems in the society. I've seen so many problems in the society over the years. But when I see problems, I don't think, oh, it's so bad. Now I have to leave. I have to go somewhere. I think this is very good. Krishna showed me this problem. Now let me try to be a good example. If I see that people are acting in an envious way, let me try to be a good example of non envy, of respecting devotees in a proper way. If I see some problem, as Gandhi once said, be the solution problem that you want, that you see. If we see a problem, be the solution for that problem. And what is the solution? The solution is chanting the holy name. Part of the difficulty comes, honestly, too, when we identify ourselves as being part of the institution. But I'm an individual. I'm part of the ISKCON. I'm part of the IYF. They're very kind to me. They let me come and give talks to you guys every week. I'm part of ISKCON Bhubaneswar. I'm part of ISKCON. But I'm not ISKCON. That's not part of my soul. I'm serving ISKCON because this is my Gurudev Seva Sangha. But I have a personal relationship with my Gurudev. And there may be problems in the society. There'll always be problems in the society. But I'm going to tolerate that because I see there's some need. And if everybody leaves, everybody goes away, then who will stay? Who will solve the problem? So I wanted today in this session to speak something about this principle of upeksha, of neglect, and how we understand that and how we can practice that. It's such an important thing for a disciple. It's such an important thing for our society that we want to develop a Madhyam culture. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I went later than I should have. I'm sorry. Maybe some devotees have some reflections or questions or comments or anything. You can go ahead and raise your hand and say something at this point. Was it a little heavy today? was that a little heavy today?
No, it was very nice because all these things we should know. And after all, these are required when we spend more time in ISKCON. We should know how to deal with everybody and what is the meaning of upeksha and how we should not criticize others, because we also spend time then we think that now we have become seniors, so I can chastise them, I can tell them. So the proper way to approach is very nicely described by you, like how we should see that incident, how we should tolerate, and how we can act upon being inside ISKCON. One time, in one staircase, Guru Maharaj was telling to one devotee told that, Guru Maharaj, there are so many criticisms, so many problems, and against us, they are saying so many things. How should we take that? He exactly told, there are so many conflicts. Guru Maharaj said, no, there is no conflict. Conflict is in your mind.
Yes. Yeah, Guru Maharaj, I remember that very well. Guru Maharaj said, there's no problem. You create the problem. You see the problem, but there is no problem. That's Krishna consciousness. We should see that. Okay, let's go to Dilip. Is that okay?
Yeah. Then I'll come back.
Dilip, can you turn on your video? There you go. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you again, Dilip.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It's a very nice class. And what I learned today is that how to reject or neglect people who are criticizing us, or who should not involve into criticizing others or fault finding of others. It's a nice lesson and a kind of learning for me that we should not indulge into criticizing others. Rather, that is the business of Guru. It is the business of Guru to correct someone or to punish or criticize someone. We should not involve into it. If we feel like that, we can go privately to him and talk about that thing. And even you have given this example of Krishna when he was addressing Kalia. He is being said as Priyambada. He even respected Kalia in a very nice words. We should learn that art, that we should always behave very nicely with the devotees. Not even devotees, with everyone we found. Thank you very much.
Yes. All of you, Dilip, I know you don't have any faults. You're a very good person. I'm sure there's no fault in you whatsoever.
I have
But
lot of.
still, we're
My
all looking.
pers-
We're all looking for. We're looking for someone to love us. And what
yes,
does love mean? Love means they're going to overlook my faults.
yes,
Just like someone may be a mafia, a gangster person, he kills people and things, but still he's hoping some girl will still love him in spite of the fact that he's killed so many people and will still appreciate him, and she won't find fault with that. So that's upeksha. When we neglect that fault, we neglect the envy in someone, and we can still have love and affection for them. And it means we stay away from their bad qualities. Maybe we have to stay away from them, but we don't give up our affection for them. We just neglect that bad quality. And when they see that they still love me in spite of my bad quality, then that'll change the heart of that gangster, that mafia person, right? That
yes,
girl can change his heart.
yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Dilip.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, Prabhuji, I wanted to share some more things. Like
Yeah.
one point, Dilip Prabhu told that how mm, we should talk confidentially if we find some faults in somebody. But again, to add something to that, as you read from that conversation of Guru Maharaj and the devotee, we should only approach that person if he is in our jurisdiction, or if we are the right person to correct him. Then only we should tell. Otherwise, we should do upeksha, isn't it, Prabhu?
Yes, definitely.
We cannot go to everybody and tell Prabhu, I saw this thing, and personally also we cannot tell everybody. But we have to neglect, not criticize also. At the same time, we'll not criticize also. My question, yeah, Prabhu. I had a question that
Go ahead.
when we are saying that we'll not criticize or not advertise on social media, but is Gurma speaking that when you don't correct that person, then if we just neglect him, then is it all right? Because you told that if we don't do something, then it's bad. Suppose something wrong is going on, and if we don't approach the authority, if we don't report to the authority, then also it's not good. So what is the right thing to be done at that point?
Well, it depends on the degree of something. If you see someone who every time there's prasadam, they steal some of the sweets or something like that, that's bad. That's envious. But if you see someone who's stealing money from the hundi in the temple, or if you see someone who's molesting a small child or something, that's in another category. And in that category, you have a responsibility. We should speak to the police, or we should speak to the temple authorities. That's our responsibility. But we do that, we practice upeksha then also. We neglect the envy, that I also don't become envious of that person. Because if I become envious of them, then I'll take on some of those bad qualities. I should see this is a pure spirit soul. This is Krishna's servant, but some modes of nature are covering them temporarily, and they're doing some bad thing. In the Bible, Jesus says you should hate the sin, but not the sinner. So we don't like the bad quality, but we don't hate that person. And people will be able to feel that. We want to change qualities in ourselves, but we want to be very, very tolerant with others. And so we have to have some wisdom and see that if there's something that we can do, we also have to see what is my strength. If you weigh 200 kgs and you're a wrestler and you're a very powerful person, and you see someone attacking a woman, maybe you can go and beat that person up. If you're a 5-year-old child and you weigh 10 kgs or something, maybe there's nothing you can do. Maybe you just have to run and tell the police or something like that. We have to also learn that the wisdom of acting according to our position. But inside of ourselves, we should always be cultivating this madhyam behavior. That baliseshu, we give kripa, we give mercy to someone who's innocent. Dvisatsu, someone who's envious. We neglect them, and that means we don't hate. There's no hatred in a devotee. We don't hate that bad quality. We don't hate that person. We hate the quality. We hate the bad thing that's going on. And we don't want to see that in our society. And we have some responsibility to say something. Sometimes I've seen in our society, they won't listen to you. Sometimes Guru Maharaj said certain things and they wouldn't listen to him. And so then Guru Maharaj said, what can I do? I did everything I can. Now I'm going to show by my example. And Guru Maharaj taught by his example, because he told us never ever give up Srila Prabhupada's mission. And we're very fortunate. I have a lot of friends in Gaudiya Mutt, and many Gaudiya Mutts, it's not very broad. There's not a very big system. In ISKCON, if you don't get along with the devotees in one of your, what do you call those different stations? You have your different hostels, different group places.
I don't know.
You have 10
What
stations. You have base stations or something you call them, I think?
Base, we call base or Chhatravasi.
Yeah. So you have 10 different ones, but you don't get along with the devotees in one, you can go to another one or something. It's not, you can, and in ISKCON, if I don't get along with the devotees in ISKCON Bhubaneswar, then go to Vrindavan, go to Mayapur, go to Mumbai, there's so many different places that we can go to. Or even within Bhubaneswar, there's different devotees I can associate with. But I don't want to give up Srila Prabhupada's mission. It's such an important thing. Is that okay, Amritesh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. That's very nice. And one more thing I wanted to add to it, in my query, that when we also practice Upeksha, there is also another principle which we told about Dharmadhvaji, that basic quality of a Vaishnava is to respect everybody. Now, we are internally respecting that person, still we are practicing Upeksha, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yes, and that again means we neglect the envy in that person. We're not neglecting that soul. And that's why in a previous session we mentioned the Bhaktivinoda says that a Madhyamadikari, when he practices upeksha, it doesn't mean that he won't feed someone who's envious. They're hungry. It doesn't mean he won't give them a place to stay in his home if they're cold. It's cold and they have no place to stay. But what it means is he won't speak Krishna Katha with them, because they're going to become angry. But he'll do whatever he can to help that person. And that's the art of preaching, because when we go out in the world, almost everybody's envious. And if we just go out there looking at everybody's envy, this girl, why is she wearing such a short skirt? This person, why did she cut her hair like that? Why are they wearing this kind of clothes? Why is this person wearing this kind of t-shirt? Why are they listening to this kind of music? If we become disturbed by the things that we see in this world, and they're all different types of envy to one extent or another, we can't preach. So to be a Madhyamadikari, to be able to preach, means we have to practice upeksha. Means we love that person, but we neglect that envy that we see in them. It's a very, very important principle. And if you don't do that, you'll go mad. You'll go completely mad. Your whole life will just be, I have to try to change this and this, and you'll never be able to change it, because you'll be part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. The solution is chant the holy name, take shelter of Bhagavatam. But when we don't have faith in it, we start trying to point out people's faults, then you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution.
And we should take it as our past karmic reaction, like that article was saying in Prabhupada's purport. Yes, Prabhupada.
Let's see. Brajabanita, did you have some comment?
Thank you very much. Yes, some angry person from Israel have some comment. I want to ask you about, you say about Upeksha, you told all this class was about Upeksha, and if it's mean literally that in the company of such person, even if he is or she is my good sister or good brother, I doesn't have to accept from he or from she any, advising that I didn't ask for, or any instruction that I didn't ask her. I just have completely a possibility to turn my back around and go 180 degrees away.
Yes, sometimes we'll go crazy. Guru Maharaj was staying in Bhubaneswar, and there's so many people trying to give him instructions. There's no limit to how many people want to give us instructions in this world. Go on Facebook, right? Everybody wants to tell you how to think, how to behave, how to do things.
Exactly.
Srila
That's
Bhaktisiddhanta, yes, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said in one article, he said that uh, giving respect to everyone in this world, still, I refuse to accept instructions from anyone except from a liberated soul. Now, that what does that mean, a liberated soul? If someone's coming, Amritesh Prabhu may not be a liberated soul. I think he's a liberated soul. But if he's coming and he's repeating something from Shastra, that's not his. And it's a good thing. If it's a good thing he's speaking, I can accept that. And I should, with humility, accept that. So the principle is, even if something is coming from a bad source, but the principle is a good principle, then I should accept it. But even if it's coming from a so-called good source, from a senior god brother, god sister, like you're saying, but if it's not something good, and we can recognize in our heart there's something wrong with it, then I'm sorry, I don't follow that. But we learn the art of cooperation. Srila Prabhupada said, we cooperate, we nod our head, yes, 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 and we go and do what we want to do. Or if it's a devotee in the brahmachari ashram or something, and some authority gives you some instruction, that's a little more difficult. But I've seen most of the time you can just tolerate it. And you can just go ahead and do that thing because it doesn't create any troubles. And if it's something really bad, they're trying to get you to stop going to Mangal Artik to iron their clothes or something like that. And it's really a nonsense thing. Then you go to the temple president or someone. And if the temple president won't do anything, then maybe you just take it, okay, Krishna wants me to learn something. And maybe I just can do Mangal Artik by myself while I'm ironing his clothes. And you tolerate for some time. And Krishna will make some change. I've seen this so many times. Many, many times, so many devotees they're not strong enough, either socially or whatever. They don't have a physical position or some position to change things. But if we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna sooner or later will change things. And he may do it in a way that the person who's making the wrong may not appreciate it. It may be very rough for them. To have faith in Krishna. Is that okay?
It's okay, but sometimes, like as you say, sometimes it can be a right message from wrong person, but because the wrong person, he even not always knows how to use this right message. Sometimes he can use this right message for his own performance, for something that actually to move on his own agenda, and not the message itself. I hope you understand what I am. He just,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's not possible for us to tolerate some things. Let's just be honest. Sometimes it's not possible for us to tolerate some things. Let's be honest. So then in that case, maybe we can't associate. Srila Prabhupada once said, if you can't associate with anyone else, you can associate with me. We can associate with Gurudev. We can associate with Vaishnavas that we do have some appreciation for. But always someone is there, and we need association. But we should just practice when we see someone's envious. Depends on how envious they are. Maybe they just like to take prasadam by themselves. That's a kind of envy. We shouldn't want it. We should always want to take prasadam with others. But it's not a big envious thing. It's not so bad. Maybe I can tolerate that. Or maybe someone just wants everybody to talk about him or her and wants to try to control everybody. That's a bigger kind of envy. And maybe for that, we just neglect that. We just don't take that person very seriously. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to practice upeksha here in Jagannath Puri. When Ramachandra Puri was chastising all the devotees for faults that didn't exist. Why are they eating so much? Ramachandra Puri was forcing them to eat more. pushing, you should eat more, don't be falsely renounced, pushing them to eat more. And then when they would take more, then Ramachandra Puri started criticizing them. Ramachandra Puri started criticizing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the same way. And the devotees couldn't tolerate it. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he practiced upeksha. Sometimes he would just ignore Ramachandra Puri's crazy rants. He would just ignore him. And just he did, and ignore him means he ignored it. He didn't argue with him. He didn't quarrel with him. He just ignored it. He just left him alone. And then other times he would tell the devotees, "So he's the god brother of my guru. So I treat him like my guru." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that way taught us this principle is really important for devotees. We practice Tanadapi Sanichina. We practice tolerance. We give all respect to others. Otherwise, we can't properly advance in bhakti. It's not just a social consideration. It's a devotional consideration. Okay? I think we should stop there. I need to get going. Thank you, Brajabanita. I hope you're okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Amritesh Prabhu. I appreciate all the devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Vansha Kalpatarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhudev, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Grace Mata Ki jai.